Miss Erickson, are you ready for this?
I am, sir. Thank you for the formality.
So Stephanie Erickson, a good friend, somebody who I love to hang out with because you're raw, you're real, you talk about things just that are important to me and to us and to things that are happening in my life, like my grandmother, who's right now in a home at Maimonides. And I have questions. Everyone has questions, and you are the person that is going to debunk, demystify, and help us answer things. But first, my intro, high profile intro. Entrepreneurs in quarantine. I've traded my suit to grow a beard and take care of my children while my wife goes to work. And I've embraced the new lifestyle. How are you embracing your stay-at-home quarantine status?
Well, after 5, alcohol hits the kitchen. Well, look, I'm all messed up too. Normally, I have an office to work in upstairs, but my son is taking that office. My daughter is working in her room. Our extra room, my husband's working in. As I mentioned to you, we have an 18-year-old living with us now. I've set up here. I'll turn here. I don't know if you can see another working station. We have an old PC that we set up for him. He's not here yet. He's on a bike, right? And then behind me now my printer is there. I'm in the kitchen.
There you go.
There's backgammon. Like I'm.
Yeah, this is you have a co-working space with your son. This is what it's become.
Yep, exactly.
I love it. Stephanie Erickson, who are you? What do you do for work? And what are you passionate about?
Who am I? I won't get into that. That's a very deep question. I think you're talking about my work. Family caregiving expert. I'm a social worker, a clinical licensed social worker in Quebec and California. And the last 15 years, I've been working with seniors, most of whom have dementia, and their family members as a clinician, evaluating cognitive capacity, and also as an advocate.
So you're a Cali girl. You're also licensed, in Cali. And one of the things that you're known for, besides the trapeze that you're passionate about, is making sure that families are safe and that seniors are cared for and that they're getting the right attention, both on a political level and really on the front line level, because you're the one who's being called in by families. Tell us how all of that has been literally turned on its head with what we're going through.
Well, I'm being asked to go in, but I can't. So my whole business is at a standstill, but my heart is breaking because I'm still getting the calls and there's absolutely nothing I can do. As we know, we can't go into any nursing homes, and even those who are living at home, I don't want to go into their home because I can I don't care about social distancing. It's still putting them at risk. So
Yeah,
I have been able to do a couple video calls with some seniors, but really that's going to be far and few between because most of them are isolated and their family members can't even go into their own home, into the senior's home. So it's very.
And so the kind of, I guess, the hearsay or the third party information, advice, or knowledge that you're getting from people who are FaceTiming their parents, caregivers that that maybe are working in hospitals or senior facilities. What are you hearing from them? How are things going on the inside that maybe we can kind of help to understand a little better?
Well, I think from the inside, the nurses, with whom I have contact are saying how hard it is. They're fielding calls all day long from concerned family members who normally would be making visits and now they can't. So now their time, which already was, stretched to its limit, now they're trying to triage all of these calls and help facilitate some sort of direct communication between the family member and the resident, which is almost impossible to do. So then it's just constantly saying, I'm sorry, I don't have time, because they're trying to, help somebody take a shower, that kind of thing. In terms of the family members, I mean, it's heartbreaking because the care in our system, whether it's a private or public residence, the ratios are really poor. I don't want to call out particular residences, but the ratios are very, very poor. And so already, if someone needs to be hand fed, and might take, let's say, 30-40 minutes to actually give that person time to chew their food, slowly swallow, staff's like already rushing to try and do it in 5 minutes. So what's happened is a lot of people have hired additional private care to go in to provide that support, or family members were going in to help assist. And now all those people are blocked and the family members can't go in to see how that person is doing, and everyone's petrified.
So now we
Not
have
to
the
mention
situation.
I'm sorry, not to mention what
No,
COVID-19 could do to this population in terms of their health. That's
yeah,
even another issue, right?
I mean, we're seeing the effects of, you know, the infection rate and what
Yeah.
happens to them. Obviously, now obviously the status quo is the status quo, and you know we would require legal intervention to change anything. And so, accepting the new normal and the status quo being what it is, where do we go from here? If people call you and they want to set up a plan for when the dust settles and you can actually go in and caregivers can actually go in, what's the first thing we need to do to assess what's been done and what will be happening, and having a special program to get these people back on track, healthy again, and you know where we want them to be?
I mean, as a social worker, there's not much more that I can do on a larger level. I think you started your question with talking about legal steps, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. Is I think legal action needs to be taken. I would love to see. We had a little exchange going on a couple days ago about,
Yeah,
a large class action, which could have been taken up prior to this whole situation,
sure.
but it's just highlighting now how little. See, told you the kid is coming home. There he is. It's just highlighting what we already knew, was that
Sure.
family members and paid private caregivers and companions are being used to supplement care. And now it's highlighted. It's very clear that care is lacking because we have these additional numbers. In my mind, we need to take legal action to have the government step up, take responsibility, and change the ratios. Change it, because it should never go back to what it was, Jamie, ever,
Sure.
because it
Sure.
already wasn't good enough.
So for you, this is the perfect wake up call. I mean, you know, amidst the misery and all the confusion, this is the perfect opportunity for reform, for change, for you know, upgrading the system.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's what happens. But class actions are big undertakings, and
Sure.
unless one individual person wants to take the risk and start and launch that kind of a process, and then you have to
Sure.
have the whole legal team behind it that's willing to basically work for free for an extended period of time. I mean, it's a big undertaking, and I'm not sure how else you can make that type of large change. I mean, you can go to one individual institution, but if it's run
Sure.
by the government, what's going to happen?
Stephanie Erickson, you are, I mean, you give keynotes. I mean, you are an accomplished speaker. You have a lot of great things to say. You speak from the heart. You speak from experience. You have your own battles with anxiety. You're very open about that. How does somebody who's anxious live with the constant blabber of the news and the threats, and it's getting worse, and the increasing deaths and fatalities? I mean, this is literally a doomsday scenario. I don't even listen to the news anymore, but I'm not an anxious person. Tell me what it's like for you.
Jamie, I am hanging on by a thread in most moments. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have a husband who's not anxious at all, and he doesn't go to the worst case scenario. So that is calming for me to have someone like that in the house. But all my worst fears that I was already having are true. By the way, my house was already stacked with toilet paper and wipes and
Are you
masks.
selling? Are you selling this? Are you selling
Hell
toilet paper?
no. But I am serious. I already had this stuff for years in my house because
Yeah.
I already had all of these thoughts, and everything that I ever imagined is now coming true.
Wow.
So it's like I'm trying really hard to just breathe, keep my feet planted on the ground, doing mindfulness, telling my husband when I'm struggling. But it's not easy at all, and
Are
I
you
feel like,
using, are there groups or support systems or resources that you recommend, that people who are going through those same anxious thoughts, are there resources for people to go to, or kind of little tips that you can give them?
there probably are resources, but this is something else that I'm doing, is that I've disengaged a lot from, and this is going to sound really horrible, but I only have so much bandwidth, and I need a lot of it myself right now. And
Sure.
I have 3 kids in the home that I need to be strong for. So I am conserving a lot of it for internally. So I'm not looking into what is available for other people. I'm doing what's right for me. And what's right for me is I only go on social media, once or twice a day. And if I'm going to look at anything related to COVID-19, it has to be from a provincial, federal source, or the World Health Organization or the CDC.
Great.
Otherwise,
Great.
I'm not reading it, because then that just freaks me out and scares me. So
Sure.
that's one thing I'm doing. I am taking a walk once or twice a day with my dog.
Great.
I'm working out every single day. I've
Good.
started yoga, which is absolutely hysterical because I can't do it. So, I'm trying to do yoga. I'm going to do it again this afternoon. And honestly, it sounds very selfish, but I'm a bit internal right now because I don't have enough for anyone else. And it's not that I don't care that other people are struggling. It's just that I don't have it in me to help those people right now. I really am just worried about myself and my own mental health. And then I have my close-knit friends that I'm texting with and doing FaceTimes with, and that's helping a lot too. And they're checking in with me.
Well, you look great. I can't wait to see the yoga poses later on. I think we'll share those as well.
I'll text you one. They're pretty fun.
Stephanie Erickson, how will life change when this is all just a memory?
Jamie Benizri, since you like to say full names. I like what Mark Fishman said, and I think you did that interview today.
Yeah, I'm not. Most people will not have probably. I'm going to be pumping these out as fast as humanly possible, but why don't you kind of maybe summarize his position? And he had a very interesting position.
He did, because he said life won't change, and I would say I have to agree with him. I mean, for me, I'm hoping that I can. For someone who does have anxiety, I'm hoping I can go back to what my normal anxiety was and not be on this heightened state for this time forward. I'm wondering if other people in the world now see the world as I saw it, which I can actually see two things that can come from that. In one way, it can make people change their behavior and their patterns and maybe not be as kind, maybe not be as generous. However, I actually think it could do a lot of really good things for mental health, because now maybe people feel what a lot of us feel all the time. So maybe there'll be more compassion and more empathy towards people who have mental illnesses, because we're all kind of developing them simultaneously.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'm going to probably have to write a book after all these interviews. The most incredible thing is that I think almost every single guest on Entrepreneurs in Quarantine have talked about empathy, have talked about a heightened sense of empathy, and how people are more forgiving, more generous, more compassionate towards one another. And so empathy is kind of the catch-all phrase for all that stuff that keeps coming back over and over again. So I think you nailed it. So I'm happy you mentioned that. So final thought, what have you learned yourself through this? Have you learned that maybe you're not as anxious and crazy as you thought you once were? Is it that everyone else isn't as crazy as they should be? Has this leveled the playing field for people who thought they were crazy before? What have you learned?
I learned I'm right, that germs are to be, you should be afraid of germs.
Yeah.
No. I've learned some interesting things. One, I learned that it's okay to have these wild, irrational thoughts, and to forgive myself a bit more for going to that place when I'm going to that place. I've also learned, funny enough, that I still really care about what other people think. And I'll tell you why. I had a client who called me and wanted me to do something in particular. She wanted me to go into a person's house, and I refused because of my own safety and the senior's safety. And that person was very upset with me. And it bothered me for days on end. And I'm like, why do I still care what this other person is thinking about me right now that I've made a decision on safety? So it's taught me about myself that I still have a lot of work to do. I've learned that my family, well, I already knew my family is the most important thing, and this solidifies it. And I also learned that life goes on without social media. I mean, I was already kind of disengaging from the ongoing need to post, and I was already kind of on my way out of that, but I really realized that it actually doesn't matter at all. And it's the personal connections, and it's my friends that are texting me and calling me and FaceTiming me that have always meant the most, and it just confirms that it doesn't. You know what else I think, Jamie, that people are going to realize is that we need people more than people thought. Like, people are very isolated and they're very connected with people, but only with a device. And I think this whole thing is going to remind people that we don't need devices. We need human connection. When we're not allowed to be with people, we all kind of lose it. We need people more than we think we do.
I love it. That was a great answer and a great way to summarize what you're going through, and really, I think what everyone's going through. So thanks for verbalizing that. I think that was important. Ladies and gentlemen, this was another episode of Entrepreneurs in Quarantine. That was really fun. I'm glad we did that.
Anytime, Jamie.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go make the kids a snack, and I'm going to go on a bike ride.
Oh, good for you.
So I'll see you when this is all done. And
Okay.
I can't wait for the yoga poses.
See you on the other side. Bye.